love that. That makes complete sense. And give me an example of that
That's
self-negotiation.
So basically, if I didn't really understand what the fuck he said, he basically just said the point of the story is he compared tennis to real life. In tennis, you gotta move a lot. There's a lot of shit going on, as you heard him say. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of there being a lot of shit going on, you also have to worry about the other person on the other side. You know what I'm trying to say? So that to him is basically why he did it like that. That's the best comparison he made.
I love that word, and
which is smart, man. High IQ, high IQ.
Yeah, like you're out
He's a
running
different
on a
type
track,
of athlete,
working
bro.
out, and you start talking to yourself, saying, "Man, my knee is really sore right now. Maybe I'm doing too much.
Sounds like me.
Maybe I need to back off. Man, my lungs are burning. Maybe I can just slow down here. I'll do like an extra 2 sets tomorrow. It'll be okay."
Yeah.
Right? That sort of stuff.
Yes.
Like that stuff's dangerous.
Yes.
And that's when you just gotta say, you know what? I'm not negotiating with myself.
Yeah.
The deal was already made. The deal was made when I set out at the beginning of the summer and said, this is the training plan I'm doing. I signed that contract with myself. I'm doing it. Throughout that process, you'll start talking to yourself like, man, I think I need to, maybe if we, nope. No, this is non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah, I love that. And for you, empathy and compassion were things that you'd been through. Like that was personally inspired work.
Yeah.
When did it come to your awareness that empathy was something missing for you and that you wanted to develop it?
I had a teammate that spoke to me and said, "Hey, Cole, I just want to feel like as a teammate, you need me." I was like, well, duh. I can't, like that was my immediate reaction. I was like, dude, yeah, of course. But I had to kind of think about really what he was saying and where that was coming from for him and his story and his journey and what that meant to him. And that opened my eyes to there's a bigger game being played. It's not just basketball, but it's the emotions of each individual and the backstory that they're carrying with them, the baggage that they're carrying with them. And if I really want to be a champion and be a great teammate, I have to understand what those mean to help them become better and in turn help me.
Yeah. And do you think this content's going to help? All the content you're creating here at Granity, is that for you to help build better bonds between parents and kids? Like, are you hoping that the podcast, for example, like kids are going to listen to it on the way to school or on the way back? Or like, how are you imagining people consuming the work?
Yeah, I imagine it in different ways, but like ultimately people always figure out a way to do it that's comfortable for them. But like, which is why in everything that we do, we try to create the highest quality of product, right? Like, people will sit down and tell me, they'll say, okay, well, audiobooks, a very small percentage of people listen to audiobooks. We don't really have to invest too much in doing audiobooks. And what? Excuse me? No, because that one person just listens to audiobooks. That one family enjoys audiobooks. They have to get the best experience that I could possibly give them. So that means using a London orchestra. That means doing full symphonies. That means having Felicia Rashad read the stories. Like, it means everything. The books themselves. I got this all the time. There's no money in making books, man. Nobody makes money in books. And I'm sorry, you want to make a book with using what material? You want, like, I'm like, yeah, because children matter. So like, I don't know how they're going. I imagine how they're going to be consuming content. But ultimately, it's my responsibility and our responsibility as a studio to make every single thing that we put out the highest quality possible.
Yeah. No, I can imagine parents listening to it on the way to school.
Yeah.
I can imagine listening on the way back or on the way to practice.
Sure.
Or things like that.
Sure.
Like, I think it's cool. Well,
the Punies for sure. Like the Punies, I was like, when I first made the Punies, we're going to release it in the summer. I think we released it in August. I think it was August around the same time. But in my mind, I was saying, okay, parents are going to listen to this every Saturday morning because I know I'm in the car driving my kids to soccer games and like, volleyball games and stuff, so parents can listen to this with their kids in the car as they're driving to sporting events. Like, that was kind of what I had in my mind. And then when it came out, it's like, teachers were using it more so than anybody in classrooms and doing, like, classroom reports on the Punies and all sorts of stuff. So, never know.
It seems like you study life a lot, right? Like, when you're talking about all of this imagination which stems from your own work, like, for example, like when you're dealing with empathy and compassion, it's reflected in the content. When you're going for these visualizations of what could this look like, it goes in the content. You study life a lot. What currently are you studying And what kind of gets your imagination really growing right now? Like, what keeps that moving for you?
There's a certain element of truth in everything, and the creativity generally comes from personal experiences first, and then you kind of look on a broader scope of, okay, how do you take something extremely personal and then channel it in a way for masses to understand or get their arms around, sort of thing. But it always starts in the element of truth, and then you start unpacking that by sitting in thought and figuring out, like, character and, who is this person and, who's his family. And then that's when I start getting in trouble. Because it's like the questions don't end.
Yeah.
So I have like books and 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 books of backstory, because it's not good enough just to say the character's this way.
Yeah.
Why are they that way?
Yes.
Well, the parents. Well, where do the parents come from? Where's the dad come from? Why are they raising a kid this way? And then, what does it have to do with the economy that's around them? And then, just
he's an overthinker, man. Kobe's an overthinker.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I think so many of us get, in our lives, we get stuck with imagination because you kind of get into that autopilot mode.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing every day, same routine, same drive to work.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel that what you're sharing is, that's easy for anyone to do. It's not like, because you're Kobe Bryant, you don't feel that. Everyone gets into that.
Sure.
You're able to find these creative outlets.
Yeah, well, like, creativity is in everything, like, even in consistent, like, what I found is creativity a lot of time comes from structure.
I agree. I'm so glad you said
like,
that.
You have those parameters and the structure, then within that you can be creative. But, like, if you don't have the structure, you're just aimlessly doing stuff. It's just like, where are you going, So, like, having a clear structure of understanding, okay, this morning I'm going to, like, when I was writing Was an Art series and outlining Legacy, I come in the morning, 7 a.m., and I'm there. I'm writing backstory from 7 to 12, then go pick up my kids, and then I come right back and I'm writing again. So, like, within that structure, my mind, when I go to sleep, is already, like, planning of what the next day is going to be, because I know, what it is I have to do. It's that consistency and structure.
Yeah, I can agree with you more. I'm writing my first book right now.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people have been asking me, like, Jay, and I'm like that. I have a very scheduled focus on writing, and people be like, well, how do you find inspiration at that time? What if you're not inspired at that time? And I'm like, no, the structure helps spontaneity.
Yeah.
Right? It's that consistency that breeds creativity.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, people think, like, you're just kind of mulling along, and all of a sudden, aha! Yeah. Like the show that we have on ESPN now called Detail.
Yeah.
Basketball, sports breakdown show. That came to me when I was walking around with my wife shopping. And I look at a piece of fabric, and I'm like, wow, this is really the detail. And this thing is, oh my, Detail. That's the name of the show. And then everything came from there. But I had been thinking about a show like that for like a year.
Yeah.
And I couldn't shake it loose. I'm like, what? I gotta find a sports show that I'm going to do, but can't just be basketball focused. Has to be broader. And I want to hear from the best minds in the world. I want to hear from Peyton Manning. I want to hear from, what is it? For like a year. And then all of a sudden, boom. And so people think it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You gotta, like, obsess over it for a while, and then it kind of pops loose.
Absolutely. Yeah, you had to plant the seed well before to see the fruit.
Yeah, and you gotta water it all the time, man. Like, you gotta sit down and watch other shows that are out there, and, like, and then ultimately you just find, like, when the answer comes to you, it's like, my God, I could have thought of that on the first day. Remember, John Williams told me that. He'll sit for like 2 months to try to figure out what the melody is. And he'll just be playing. He'll be at his piano all day. He'll say the only day he'll take off is Sunday, because his wife forces him to take Sundays off. And he'll just be sitting there writing. And then it just comes.
Yeah. And
he's like, I seriously could have thought of that on the first day. Like, why? It's just so simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what people don't realize as well. Like, when you go out there and you're shopping with your wife and you see the detail and you're like, okay, that's the show. And then you go back into consistency to create it.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't just like, now I thought of it, I'm just going to throw that idea. It's like, now I'm going back to the drawing board, have the name now, build around it.
What I try to do is shoot the idea down and figure out everything that's wrong with the idea.
Ooh, okay.
Right? This show won't work because, like, Detail, for example, is like, this show won't work because it's not for fans. It's for the 1% athlete.
Yeah.
All right? Well, will it be successful? People connect to it? Like, you just start unpacking every little thing. How will we shoot it? Can I even get Peyton Manning to do it? Could I get, you know? And you start shooting them down. Same thing with the novels, like characters and plots and stories. Does this make any sense? No. Here's why. Pop, 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 pop. And I felt like that really helps me.
Yeah, I like that approach a lot, actually, because I think sometimes, especially right now in the world, we go to the wishful thinking side.
Yeah.
Like, you have the positive vision, and you're like, oh, this is how it's going to turn out.
Right.
And then you ignore the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Or you ignore the kind of like the potholes or the loopholes because you're just like, oh, no, I don't want to focus on the negativity.
Yeah.
But actually, what you're saying is, if you're aware of it, of those known unknowns, then you can actually break them down yourself.
Well, yeah, it's just like the same thing for any great movie. You have to have the antagonist.
Yes.
A strong villainous character will really drive the narrative along. If you don't have that, you have nothing from which your hero has to bounce off of. That villain could be, maleficent. It could be something inside of you. It could be whatever, but you have to have that clear antagonist that's driving the narrative forward. And so, in this sense, it's the same thing. You pick apart the negative, and from that, you can then move forward.
Absolutely. What I'm loving here right now is that all I'm hearing is like Kobe the storyteller. Like, I'm loving it. Like, what I feel is like, what I'm hearing about is your obsession and obsessiveness with stories. And it's not just like, I'm sharing this. It's like, you've really studied stories. Like, you've really broken them down and understood it. Tell me about where that obsession comes from in general, like how you find obsessiveness and how you've applied that to story.
Yeah, obsessiveness just comes from something that you love. Like, you really love it. You'll go through fire for it. You'll go through the ups and downs with it, and you'll just keep at it because you love it so much, And the story for me started a long time ago. I mean, I had a great English teacher at Lower Merion High School named Jane Mastriano, and she explained to me the art of storytelling my sophomore year. And that's where I started falling in love with it and understanding story structure, how to develop compelling characters, and how stories are the driving force, whether they're inspirational or informational, that really change society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're defined by the stories we tell ourselves, whether personally or outside.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it seems like you just mentioning there, it just shows the role of teachers. And now when you find that teachers are using the work you're creating to teach, that must be amazing.
Comes full circle.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool feeling, man. Like growing up, when I was in high school, man, I didn't read much at all.
Yeah.
Because basketball was my thing. Now, if you give me a basketball book, or like a sports book, or like a sports psych book, I'm devouring that. You know what I mean? Because it was a clear focus for me, which kind of gets me into this market a little bit too. Because like for our active children that love being outdoors and playing all the time, they're not reading.
No.
But they're missing out on so much by not reading. But they will read if there's something that they feel like speaks to them.
So true.
And so now I think we get more readers in the world because of it, hopefully.
That's so true. No, I think so. I agree with you. Like, for me, and this is why everyone's different, and I think there's such a need for what you're doing, because when I was growing up, I never enjoyed fiction. And so I thought I didn't like reading because all the books that the school suggested were fiction books.
Right.
And then when I was 14, my dad handed me an autobiography and a biography. And I devoured it. And then I started reading because I was like, I want to hear about real people who break and who develop and who learn and grow and have been through failure. And like, I want to hear about rags to riches. And I want to hear about real people who went through real pain.
That's right.
But I grew up believing that I didn't like reading.
Right.
And I think you're so right. I think there's a lot of kids out there who think they don't like reading or they think reading is boring.
It's a problem because like what I found in the industry, which is why we self-publish, because a lot of publishers want to publish the same type of story, the same type of plots, same looking characters, not a lot of diverse characters out there at all. And so we said, you know what, we're going to have to do this on our own. This way we don't have anybody in our way telling us what the market wants to hear. I don't care about that. We write stories that come from the heart, and our characters are going to look like my daughters, because my daughters don't have characters out there that look like them.
It's a great point.
So they're going to look like my kids, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah, I think what you just raised there about diversity and representation is huge.
It's huge, man.
Huge.
Because I don't see it, man. And books is just the first thing. Publishing is the first thing. Now, if we look at animation is even worse. It's even worse, in terms of developing characters. diverse characters. But even beyond that, the animators themselves, there's no diversity in that industry.
Right.
None. And I'm talking not just racial diversity, but gender diversity as well.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of things that we need to take on that we are taking on, and hope to make the world and the industry a better place because of it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I'm a British Indian, right? Born and raised in London, Indian. Never seen any character that look like me anywhere.
Right, because they think, the mass market, it's not going to appeal to the mass market, so we're not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah, and everything's spreading so fast now, and everything's global now.
Yeah.
Right? Nearly all content is global now, and most global markets are growing everywhere. So the need for people, especially young people, being able to see themselves in characters, and it's not, and I think it's a deeper point that you're making, is you want to be able to see your story in someone. Right? Even just beyond like color and background, it's like your story, your experience of life.
When we made Dear Basketball, we got a lot of pushback from people. Like, I took it to some very prominent studios at first, and they all said, yeah, no. Because you said basketball is too sport specific. Nobody's going to connect with this sort of thing. Because, there's a lot of people out there who don't watch basketball. And I'm like, well, that's not the point.
Yeah, that's not, yeah.
It's not the point. And so it was really a case study. Even with our novels, everybody was like, sports novels, nobody's going to read that. It's too much of a niche market. I'm like, sports is bigger than that, man. And so we made Dear Basketball to really prove a point that you don't have to watch basketball at all to connect to the journey of a dream.
Yes.
And once we saw that connection, it was kind of validated our point of view.
I think that's a massive point of view. And for anyone who's listening or watching right now who thinks because Kobe Bryant wants to do something, it just happens, it just shows you have to do it yourself sometimes, because not everyone's going to believe in you.
Certainly not. Certainly not. And what you'll see is, once you start doing it, and now people want to come and jump in, but I'm like,
Yeah, bro, what he's saying is facts, bro. Like, if you got a goal, if you got a dream, bro, you got to just do it, bro. Because when you have nothing and you start at the bottom, it's very easy for somebody to tell you that shit not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? And then once you start getting the ball rolling and you start gaining some momentum and you start showing people that it's working, that's when everybody gonna be like, oh, see, I told you it was working, and and I knew you could do it, and all that old weak ass shit. You just gotta believe in yourself, bro. And all it takes is you, bro. If you could tell yourself you could do it every day, you could look yourself in the mirror and say, I could do it, you could do it, bro. You may not be at the fucking Drake level with this shit, but in your own unique way, you're going to bring something to the table, bro. I'm telling you. It's going to happen, bro. You could do it.
Kind of forced us to go about this ourselves, so I think we're just going to build it from the ground up ourselves. But thank you.
Exactly. They saved you.
Yeah,
right?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Because if you had signed on, we just get kind of going with the flow.
Totally, yeah. You can be grateful to them.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. It was the same with this podcast. Funny enough, when we launched, a lot of people were considering whether it was, gonna you do social videos, like is it gonna work on a podcast? And there were a lot of people that were not sure. And then we launched one of the biggest podcasts in the world in the health category, which is my world, and it was just like everyone's just like, oh, interesting. But I'm like, thank you, thank you so much for saying no, and you didn't think it was gonna work, because now I figured it out myself. And what you said, it actually builds confidence and validation. And
Oprah told me this when I first decided to build the studio, and I was asking how Harpo came to be. She said, well, when she was doing her deal for the Oprah Winfrey Show, she was re-upping her deal. And actually, the first contract she made, she said, well, don't pay me up front. Just I want to own a percentage of the show. And so they gave it to her. Now, at the time, there weren't any black women hosting a daytime talk show, right? So it was really new. And she said, Kobe, if they believed that the show was going to be successful, they wouldn't have given me that. They wouldn't have. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, we got to steal. We don't have to pay her. We can take this money and move it over here. This is great. It's going to be a flop or be success. I don't know. At least we get diversity on TV. It's fine. And all of a sudden, it's, we're in trouble.
We shouldn't have given it away.
Opened up Pandora's box, right? So now you come back for the next deal, and it's like, you gotta have to give me some more ownership.
Yeah.
And like, dang it, here. And then ultimately, she came to owning 100% of her show.
Yeah,
That's
which
crazy.
is amazing.
Shout
Wow,
out
that's a
to
great
Oprah.
story. Yeah, that's fascinating. I think because sometimes when you think that, you're like, oh, they like me. That's what they're giving it. No.
Yeah, no, don't like me, please. Here's an idea. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I just need you to buy in just a little bit.
Yeah, I love that, man. That is awesome. How are you encouraging? Well, you've shared so many stories of like your teacher who taught you about storytelling and writing early on. You just shared Oprah's example. Like, you've had so many incredible mentors in your life. We all know about that. How are you encouraging young people to find the right mentors, and how can they find the right mentors, even through your work? I guess your work is somewhat mentorship.
We try to be, and I think the important thing is research. In the hall here in the office, I have a hall that I call Muse Hall. We have all the portraits of some of our muses here, from J.K. Rowling to, Steve Jobs and so forth and so on. And I think it's important to research them. And it's like putting, fuel in the fire every day. It's constant inspiration. When you read about them, what they were able to accomplish, how they went about accomplishing it, it's just constantly, feeding that flame and learning. And the best way to do that is to learn from the people who have done it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That just made me so happy. I have a gallery wall in my home. If we were recording this at my place in Hollywood, like I have a gallery wall, Steve Jobs is right there.
Yeah.
Right, and Einstein's there, and Martin Luther King's there, and there's a few other people. And it's, for me, it's the same thing. It's like sometimes I'm sitting there and I'll be like, well, what would that person do? Like, how would they have dealt with this challenge?
Right.
And you're so right. I think you can be mentored by people who aren't alive.
100%. Because their stories still live, which brings us to the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
Their stories still live. These muses are here. It's important to learn from them. And if anything, it helps you remember that they are human, just like us.
Yeah.
These great things that get accomplished can be accomplished by others and beyond. Building Walt Disney Company is not something that, people look at and scoff at and go, oh, it can't be done. Well, why not? Why not?
Yeah. And the more action you take, the more you think is possible.
Yeah, because you realize there are people just like us. They made mistakes just like us, and they kept going. And we can do the same.
Absolutely, man. Well, I could talk to you for hours, but you're a busy man and you got loads of things to do. So we end every interview with what we call the final 5 quick fire, rapid fire round, which means you have to answer in one word or one sentence maximum.
Got it.
So this is easy for you. So the first question is, what brings you the most joy right now?
Family.
Beautiful. Second, what do you want your girls to think when they hear your name?
Daddy.
Nice. Number 3, your favorite animated film?
Pinocchio.
Oh, nice. Oh, I was not expecting that.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
They were in a zone when they made that film.
Absolutely. Question number 4, the book that's had the biggest impact on you?
Ooh, that's interesting.
The Alchemist.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
Never
Question
heard
number
of that
5, your one message to all storytellers would be?
Create from truth.
It's beautiful, man. Kobe, thank you so much.
Got it, man.
This has been an honor, man. Thank you. It's such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing so many gems, so many wisdom pieces. And anyone who's out there right now, I've got the copy of the book right here, Legacy and the Queen. You can go grab it, and you can also listen to the podcast, The Punies, as well right now, so you can go and download that. We'll put the links to both of them in the comment section and in this.
All right, man. That's going to be the end of this video. 50-minute video, long as fuck. I'm probably going to make it 2 parts. You know what I'm saying? I hope you guys enjoyed. Long live the GOAT Kobe Bryant. Long live his daughter. You know what I'm saying? Huge shout out, you know what I'm saying, to Jay Shetty on getting this interview, creating a legendary interview that's going to live on forever. You know what I'm saying? That people like myself and others could watch this, you know what I'm saying, and learn from it. You know what I mean? If y'all like it, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe if you new. And I'm going to catch y'all when I catch y'all, man. We out, bruh.